And here we go. Welcome. So this is one of a few special training sessions we're doing this week. We're kind of doing a little series of mini training sessions, and this session is going to focus on adding an events calendar to your microsite. We will be together for about 30 minutes, so it'll move a little quickly, but all the instructions that I cover on the call will be available on our training portal that you can refer to in your own time. So don't worry if you're not following along every single step. There is a lot of detail, so that will be available to you after this call. So just a brief introduction. I think most of you on this call I've met and have had the pleasure to work with on your microsite, but if anyone does not know me, I'm Laura, and I'm based in a home office in Seattle, and I work on the web team, and I help regions with training and support on their tsa.org microsite. And that's my son, Alexander, in the back there. So let's jump into what we will cover today. We will start by talking about why adding an events calendar on your microsite can be a smart enhancement to make. We will look at a few examples of regions who have event calendars already and see what those look like and how they work. We'll share a few tips for success, and then we'll get into the meat and talk about how to actually build an events calendar on your microsite. So why add an events calendar? For those who are on the last call, I posed this question about adding staff directories, but I would just love to hear from you all why you want to add an events calendar to your microsite. And you can use the chat if you want to just share an answer. Look for the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. You might have to click more, and you should see the chat option. And once you open that up, you can just type in your answer there, and we'll take a minute to do that. So I'd love to hear from you all why you're thinking about adding an events calendar to your microsite. Bianca, first up. So Bianca shared she wants to showcase how engaging our communities are and drive traffic to the microsite. It's a great reason to add a calendar. Jamie shared it's an easy way to drive traffic. This is very true. Good way to bring people back. Michelle shared, in general, trying to get better at directing people to our site. This would be another great way to utilize the microsite. Yep. Jocelyn, make it easier for visitors to see what's going on in our region. Absolutely. Anyone else want to share a thought? Jamie? Seems like a good habit to get invites and details out of email. These are all really good reasons to add an events calendar, and I'm excited for you all to be able to do this on your own once this training concludes. And so I had a few similar thoughts to share. I think you all are hitting on these themes, definitely. I think that the big reason is you should be thinking about your microsite as the central hub for all information, all events, everything that's going on in your region. This is kind of like the base for where people can find that information. So when visitors come, whether they're prospective core members or they're visitors who are coming because maybe they read a blog post that your region shared and tweeted out, they're going to expect to find this information on your microsite. This is sort of the place, the authority for what's going on in the region. So definitely meeting expectations of visitors, having that information available is a good move. I think a few folks touched on these ideas that visitors can take action, and that it shows your region is engaged in the community and engaged with what's happening on the ground. So it gives folks who visit a way to take an action and get closer to the region through your microsite. It's giving people a very specific way to connect, and connect in person is always a really strong move. So good reasons that everyone is sharing, and I'm excited to talk more about how this can work. So let's take a look at a few event calendars on Microsites right now. So there are two regions I wanted to spotlight. One is New York. And so the New York region added an event feed or calendar to their homepage here, kind of in the middle. And so they've got two events that they're listing. One is a speaker session that people can join, and one is Hamilton, joining a screening of Hamilton together with the TFA team. And so as you are creating events, you will be able to pull those into a feed of events on any page. We usually recommend the home page because it's kind of the first place people land when they come to your region. And so this will show you in reverse chronological order. So the event that's happening the soonest will be here at the top, and then events that are further out will be lower in the list. And then this is a little preview. If you want to read more about an event, you can click on the title, and that will take you to the events page. Every events page has some default images that are available. This is our default banner that kind of just shows events across Teach for America, what that can look like. And then here's the details about the event. So the host, the date, the time, a contact or email, emailing someone about this event, and then some information about their details about the event are here. And the New York region is great because they are connecting people with a way to RSVP. This isn't actually a feature that's built into the event content type, but it's something you can link together. And so they are taking folks to a site on outside of their microsite for people to sign up. So this is something you can do as well. Looks like this is on Classy. So we'll talk about how to link up third-party RSVP sites to your event. So that's kind of a preview event of what events look like. I'll show an example from Dallas. So again, this is on the Dallas-Fort Worth homepage. And they've got one event coming up, our Fort Worth Kids Ready for College. So again, it's another speaker session. And I really love this event because they've included a lot of really helpful details about what's going on with this event. So the dates and then the start and end time, so folks kind of know how long the event will take place. And then they've got some additional details about when the doors open, when the program begins, if there's going to be snacks or drinks served, what kind of attire is appropriate, and then information about parking and logistics, as well as information about the host and who's involved. So this is a really great example of good details to think about including when you're building an event. So that's what that looks like on your microsite. Let's just talk a little bit about some tips for success. I touched on some of these as we were looking at those examples. One thing you can do to kind of make the process more efficient is to draft up your event details before you start entering them in the CMS. So your date and time, location, any logistical information you want to include. And then if you're going to offer a way for folks to RSVP, then you'll want to set that up separately. I believe we have two platforms that are branded with our Teach for America brand that you can use. One is Cvent and one is Eventbrite. And Jamie, do you want to speak more to those, just like how people can access those tools? And you might be on mute, Jamie, if you're trying to speak up.
Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you now.
Oh, yeah.
So I was asking if you want to share a little bit more about Eventbrite and Cvent as third-party tools that folks could use for RSVPs.
Sure. So I wanted to call out that the link that y'all just saw for New York was a Classy page. And so calling out that that's sort of a bit of like a special circumstance because long story short, the Hamilton event is super neat, but it's requires some legality with like handing out tickets and sort of this like raffle opportunity. So they needed something with a little bit more like structure and some legality stuff. But we are fans of, and I feel like most of y'all know this, of Cvent and Eventbrite. And all the information's on the marketing portal for which to use, but one of those is best to use for if you're accepting payment. For like folks need to pay to attend an event, and then another one is just the best for like RSVPs. And so both of those obviously are a much more formal and sort of like secure way of collecting RSVPs over like using a Google survey or something like that. So that's why we recommend transitioning like an RSVP, like moving people from your microsite into another secure space we would say definitely use Eventbrite or Cvent if you're wanting to collect information that way.
Great. Thanks for sharing a little more about that. So I think the big takeaway is that, and that's another step you would need to complete before you create your event on tfa.org. We just don't have the ability to manage RSVPs through our feature just yet. Hopefully it's something we can do in the future. So let's look at how we create an event. So there's going to be 2 steps to doing this. The first step is going to be you're going to create the event content type, or just the event page. And then the second step will be to add the event to your, or add an event feed to your page. So I'm going to hop over to our QA environment. So this is like our test environment, and we use the Rio Grande Valley region as our example region. So once you are logged into your microsite, you'll see these toolbars at the top for editing and creating content. So we're going to click add content, and that will open up our list of different types of content we can create. And so we are going to select event. And this will open up a form we can fill in. And so here is where you put your event title. I'm going to be not creative and just add there's test event here. Any field you see with a little asterisk will be required. And so the title is required. Teaser is what will show up. I'm going to go back to Dallas to show you. This is what's going to show up on your events feed. Let's go back to their homepage and look at that teaser field. That's going to be this little kind of 2-sentence line right here. So that's a good, that's also a required field and a good way to kind of like write something enticing about your event. So you would say something to that effect. Maybe something better than that. And then the description will be kind of the details about the event. So this could include things just like overview of the event, logistics, speakers, dress code, anything like that. Those are details you could include in the description. And then on the right is where a couple more required fields. This is just going to sort of categorize our event. We can use this information in different ways. We're going to select an event type. And so if it is a conference, if it's something related to institute, an offline event, which is another way of saying an event that happens in person, or an online event, you can specify what kind of event. So we'll say this is an offline event. And the question comes up, you have to add the info in the font color you want to show on the page. I don't think there is the ability to change the font color. We recommend just, a lot of that's built in through predefined styles on the site. So as you're entering your details, I think your formatting options are going to be bold, italicized, adding links, things like that, or bullets. I don't think there's ability to change the font color, and partially just because we want to maintain consistency and make sure we're using fonts that are best suited for the web. So you'll see once we save the event page that those predefined styles will kick in. And so like our event title and other elements will stand out in different colors. Does that answer your question? Hopefully that was clear. Another question, can you restrict who can RSVP for an event, or is it open to anybody if it's on your microsite? That's an excellent question. I believe that events are open to all. I don't think there's a way to restrict anybody. The RSVP part of the event will happen in the third-party site that you choose to use, so Cvents or Eventbrite. I'm not as familiar with those tools. There may be ways you can restrict who can actually complete an RSVP using those tools, but the event itself will be publicly visible on your microsite. That's a good question. So we'll continue filling out our form. Keep the questions coming. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat as we go. The next thing we're going to fill in is event status. So most likely you're going to choose open. This event is still open and available to attend. And then we'll go down to event time. So you'll pick your day the event takes place. I'm going to pick a different date. We'll pick the 29th. And then the time. So you can adjust that as well by just typing in time. We'll make this AM. And then I think it's a good practice to show the end date. That lets people know how long the event takes place. You know, if it's like a 4-hour panel, folks might want to know that ahead of time before they attend and sign up. And so we'll make this go until noon. All right. The only reason you would want to hide the event time is if you were doing like an all-day event, or maybe it was a save the date. You don't have all the details quite nailed down. You could still post the event on your microsite and hide the time until you have that finalized. That's another helpful option. And then Bianca asked, do we need to manually remove events from our site after they've passed? That is the beauty of the events feature, is that you do not. Once the date has passed, the event will automatically be unpublished, and so it will no longer appear on your events feed. Good question. So this is our default cover photo. You are welcome to add your own cover photo. You can also submit a request to the queue and get some help from our creative team if you want us to look in our library and pick something more specific. There's information about the event or the photo specs here. You can follow those as you're thinking about a photo that might work. And then call to action. So this will be what we saw for the RSVP button. It could be RSVP or purchase tickets, or tailored to kind of the nature of the event. I'm just going to type in RSVP. And then the URL will be that third-party site where you set up the ability for folks to RSVP. So let's pretend we're using Eventbrite. That's where that goes. Event tags. This is something you can set up. I think this is a good option if you are planning to have a lot of events available on your microsite, and maybe you want to filter events for alumni versus events for the entire public. Let's say you have like an alumni page and you want to just have an alumni calendar. This requires submitting a request to the queue. Regional admins don't have the ability to add these tags, but you can submit a request and say, I want to add an alumni tag for my event, and we can set that up so that's available to pull in here to tag your event. Host name would be who's hosting the event, so we can say Teach for America, Rio Grande Valley. Event image, again, this is a default image. You're welcome to swap this out or get help via the request queue from our creative team for that image. And then location info, this is where the event takes place. So we'll say Rio Grande Valley Regional Office. The address would be where specifically? I'm going to put something really generic. And then telephone and email address would be contact info for folks to contact someone. So those are the basic details about the event. And so you can save the draft if you want to work on it more before it's available for search and on your site. And if you're feeling good about it, you're ready to publish, you can publish. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then we should see our event page come up here. Here we are. So there's our default banner and thumbnail image and the details about the event. So your events will be much more interesting than mine, but this is just an example. And so I know there was a question about fonts and things like that. So here, this is all automatic based on predefined styles for the event page. So you don't need to worry about trying to manipulate those. Those will come up like you're seeing here as you're entering your event. And then if folks want to RSVP, they would click on that button and that would take them to that third-party RSVP site. So you would want to link to a specific RSVP event page that you've created. But just showing you how that looks. So that's part one. The next part is to add a feed of events to your microsite. So right now, someone would need to search to see this. So we need to kind of make it more visible, and that's where the event feed comes in handy. You see a chat over here. Oh, there's a question about if you can edit after it is published. If we see an error, absolutely, yes, good question. So to do that, I'm really glad you asked that because I can show you. To do that, you would come back to your event page and then you would click the new draft tab here. And you can go in and make edits to any of the fields that you filled in. And then you would save that. To get back to your event page, if you haven't yet added an event feed, you would come here to find content, and then you would see your event page in the list of content on your site. So I think I've created a couple test events. You'll see all those there. And then you can click on the link and open that up to edit. You can also click edit here in the far right and make changes. So we'll go back, I'm going to click back to site. We'll go back to the website and we'll add an event feed. That part is really simple. I'm going to come back to the home page and add an event feed there. So once you click on the page where you want your event feed to appear, you're going to come down to the bottom and click Customize this page. And then we're going to go up to the top and click our launcher. It's going to launch our pane menu. So we'll launch that. And we're going to select the TSA automation family of panes. So we've got some options here. The one you're looking for is automated upcoming events. So we'll click on that. You don't really need to do anything here, but the things that you might consider if you want, the default title, I believe, is upcoming event. So you can override that title and add something different if you want to personalize that. Otherwise, I think leaving the rest of these fields checked off is a good move. The other thing you might want to do is if your region's planning on having 25 events at a time, you can limit the number of events that show up within the pane and give people the ability to page through to see more. So I think the default is 10, but you could set this to 3, and then they would have little pagination arrows below the event pane that would let them see more events. And then there's some options to filter. Usually folks leave those blank, but this is where your event tags will come in handy if you wanted to have just a section of alumni events. I'm going to click finish, and we'll see here's all of Laura's test events appearing in the list. And when you add a new section to your site, it will default to the top of the page. And so you're going to want to drag that down to where you want it to appear. So let's move it down. I would say if you're doing it on the home page, move it down under teaching in your region. Have those two sections be kind of first, and then this can be the third one. And then click save, and that will lock in your changes. there's our event feed. What questions do you all have? Hopefully that's pretty straightforward. One thing I'll also mention is, again, if your region's like really going to go gung-ho with events and you want to have a longer list of all the events available, that's a situation where you could have like a dedicated tab on your navigation just for events, and we could help you build a standalone events page. That would be something to submit to the request queue. We could set up that page and add it to your main nav, and then your job would just be to keep creating those event pages, and they would automatically appear in the feed. So if that's your region strategy, that can be an option as well. Yeah, so I think, yeah, if you have a lot of events you want to display, that's maybe where it warrants its own tab. If you just have a few at a time, the homepage is a good place to share those. And the nice thing about events pages is, since these are unique to each event, you can use these in your other channels to drive people back here. So you can get a link to this page and then include that in your email or tweet or Facebook updates. And so you can drive people back to specific event pages that way and drive people back to your site. We've got about 1 more minute for questions if anybody has anything on their mind. And I believe Jamie is putting together a follow-up email with links to training resources to do this on your own. So you'll get those instructions. And I'm always available if you run into any problems or have questions. I can help troubleshoot or help you think through content strategy. All right, if there are no questions, then we'll wrap up. Thank you all for joining. I hope this was helpful and gives you some good info to get started. And I will maybe see some of you tomorrow on our images training. Thanks for joining.